Good evening and welcome. We have four people in the house. Honestly, that's the cheap seats spoken for. We're just waiting for the upper ring to load up. All the cheap seats in the house have gone. So good evening to you all. Frank Casey's first in the house, Graham Anderson, Jeff Harroway, and Tracy Dotts. Five people in the house. Honestly, some days I wonder whether I should have gone down the pub and played pool. Shall we give them a couple of seconds? Perhaps there's something happening tonight. Anyway, what's happening out there in this dog crazy world we're in? Dog wars, isn't it? Dog wars. Everybody's fighting, aren't they? Everybody's arguing. Arguing about how to use the e-collar now. I don't know if you've been watching the shenanigans. How to use the e-collar. You've got Ivan just done a video, upset so many people, and yet, like I said, which team do you follow? What gang do you belong to? And that's what's happening, isn't it? What gang do you belong to? Who do you follow? Who do you believe? If professional dog trainers, so-called professional dog trainers, can't come up with a system that works and stand by it, and I totally understand that people have got their difference of opinions, their different training methods, but to be bashing one method because your method is better and your ideology is better than everybody else's just seems to make a bigger mockery of it all, doesn't it? Because how does the average person know what to do if you've got top trainers out there who are what we call internet stars? Not like me. Look, I've only got 21 people in the house. Sometimes some of these internet stars go on, they get 100 people, 200 people, because they're selling an ideology that people get on the bandwagon and they just believe everything that they tell them. They haven't got an open mind. And I think you've got to have an open mind. So, which side do you support? Do you not open your mind and go, hang on, I like that theory and I'll try that. And that bit seems to work, but I'll use that. But I don't like that. Perhaps I don't agree with that because I've tested the situation and I found I get results from that where they're saying it's negative. So who do you believe in the dog training world if the professionals are arguing non-stop? That's the problem, isn't it? And yet, I love debate. Without debate, how can we move forward? Without debate, without talk, without sensible debate. Now, just imagine you'd paid a lot of money to go and study under a certain trainer, and then that certain trainer comes out and starts slagging off anybody using the e-collar on light stim to teach the dog what you want, so the dog understands what you want, and says that you shouldn't be doing that. You should be going in hard to stop unwanted behaviors. Now, I understand that. If you want to stop an unwanted behavior, why do you have to line the dog up for it? Why? I've always thought that. But to openly go out of your way to rubbish anybody and say in public that anybody who uses light stim is dangerous and actually doing us injustice in the dog training world, it becomes a mockery, doesn't it? Because people abuse any tool and people abuse any method if they step over the line. Now, there's nothing worse, is there, than seeing, a fat dog with no drive, no desire, just looking for food. And a trainer that I follow got into a bit of a ding dong, shall we say, ding dong. And I think he handled it quite well because he made a comment. And on my platform, I'm entitled to give my opinion. And if you don't like my opinion, you don't have to watch it. Or you can watch it and go, he talks a load of shit. He hasn't got a clue what he's talking about. But to go onto someone's platform on Facebook and trying to have a bitch fight with them, a sensible person will just play you. Somebody who has no understanding will just delete you because they don't want to be shown up. They don't want to be seen to not perhaps know what they're talking about. So when somebody goes onto somebody else's platform and wants to kick off, it's down to the person who owns that platform. And so say I've got my Facebook page and you want to come on there and debate with me, I'll debate with you. But if you want to be rude or try and patronize me or try and demote my thought pattern, then you're going to have to take the consequences. And that's what I was watching on another trainer's Facebook page. And I agreed totally with him. He had every right to fight back the way he felt fit. And what he did, he used satire, but he flooded them with truth. And they didn't like it, so they kicked off. Now, he has every right to throw them out off his own Facebook page if he feels that they are going out of their way looking to cause a bitch fight. But then again, he can keep them in there if he wants and play them. And it's like a cat playing a mouse. When you watch somebody who knows what they're talking about and they're just egging someone on, you can see what they're doing. They're playing them. It's open sport if an idiot wants to come on and challenge you. And I think it's a sad fact that we've got thumbs up and everyone's going, give me a thumbs up, follow me, subscribe to me. And yet we can't give thumbs down anymore because of snowflakes. Because so many people get triggered. That's sad, isn't it? That's sad that people don't want to challenge other people because society now says on Facebook, YouTube, oh no, you're not allowed to upset each other. You've got to be nice to each other. So I'm going to be nice to everyone on here. We've got Not Tables Carlos in here, Steve Pace is in here, Peter Piper, Kevin Polehill, Denver Skinner, Nigel Moore, Sue Upton's here. Oh, she's over there. She's in the room. She's just quite quiet tonight, isn't she? Christopher's in the house. Ben Doolan's in the house. And Lynn Vine's already been in the house. Oh, that was Tracy Dodds, wasn't it? So Lynn's in the house as well. So good evening to all of you. There's 26 of you. I haven't got a massive following out there on the internet. I'm not worried about that. I like the fact that people follow me for what I put up, what I share, and perhaps my sense of humor. But not everybody gets on with my sense of humor, do they? And so what do? Do you stop being funny? Do you stop putting up videos that offend people? No, it's my platform. I'll put it up. If you like it, you can come in and watch it. If you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. And that's why I put up that image. Which gang are you in? Because camp. Now, I thought Facebook may ban that because it says camp. And where I come from, camp is a little bit different than some camps. So it depends what camp you come from, doesn't it? But I believe that we've got people in our group, and this is what I've said today on a feed I put up. We've got people in our group that haven't won competition, gun dog competition. But they've been in the group for a long while. They've produced a number of dogs of very good standard, and they've put up their videos to show their work. Now, I've now promoted them as trainers. Now, you've got some people in certain camps who've been successful, said, well, hang on, if they've never won anything, how can they be helping people? It's not all about winning in my eyes. It's about having the knowledge, having the understanding of how to get a dog to work in the field. Not everybody wants a competition dog. If someone said to me, I only want a competition dog, how am I going to train a competition dog? I'd say it's got to be better than the average film star out there in the trial world. Why? Because you won't beat them unless you're better than them on the day. And then you've got the politics to be involved in. And that's part and parcel of trialing. But a good hunting dog used to be number one. Retrieving, yes, you had to get your retrieves in, but they didn't need to be as clean as perhaps people think. And the more emphasis you put on a good, clean delivery, sometimes you can cause bigger problems. And I think people get bogged down into thinking, I've got to get my delivery perfect. My delivery's got to be perfect. You'll find that when that dog's on game, that dog will bring that bird in no problem at all. And the other parts of the training will tidy themselves up with the dummy work, because you can put too much pressure on some dogs and some dogs will fold under pressure. The same as some people will fold under pressure in competition. I know many a good dog person who can train a dog to a good standard who can't go in line and run a dog because their nerves kick in, their adrenaline kicks in, and they go to pieces. And I've watched good dog men who I've trained with go trialing and fall to pieces under pressure. And I've seen dogs that can handle tests but can't handle trials, because it's all different. The dog reads the apprehension from the handler, the dog gets nervy or wound up, and the dog's a different dog on the day. In a training day in the field, completely different dog. The guy's thinking straight because he's not under such pressure. I believe that everybody who should come to me for training should be under pressure of some sort. And so should every dog. It makes them a better person. It makes the dog a better dog. Being able to live and cope with pressure is part and parcel of life. Rob Martin, the dog trial world, we know isn't right. Face fit stuff. I have a mate who's a very good professional trainer and working his nuts off to get field trial winner. He had to bite his lip many times. And it's true, Rob. If you're not in the clicky circles, and that's why I put up that picture for a little bit of controversy again, because I like controversial situations and subjects. I talk about them when other people brush them under the carpet, pretend it doesn't happen. Everything in the trial world is rosy. And if you're not good enough, you won't win. What a load of bollocks. It all depends what camp you're in. Those camps up and down the country matter. If you're training with a certain film star and somebody else in another camp is that, you're wasting your time running your dog at their trial that they organize. Why? All should be fair in love and war. But there's not. There's the jealousy factor. And the jealousy factor is exactly the same as in the dog world. Some people crave numbers. Some people crave following. I want the following for the right reason, that people are getting results and people enjoy being in the group for a number of reasons, not just for the camaraderie, not just for the training expertise, but the fact that they're moving forward with their training and their dog, and they enjoy like-minded things that people put up and we share and we put out there in the group. And very seldom do we get into any tit for tat silly argument. Very seldom. On the odd occasion, you will. You're going to say something that's going to trigger somebody. But guess what? You can move on from it because it's not on a regular occurrence. It's not a bitch fight in our group on a regular basis, so that everybody's at each other's throat and there's jealousy involved. There's so much camaraderie that people reach out to help each other and give constructive, we call it constructive criticism, because there's nothing wrong with criticism if it's constructive. If you're just going out of your way to bitch someone or rubbish someone and their way of thinking, their way of training, and you haven't got the answers for it, then I can't be arsed with it. Someone asked me today, would I share a post that I put up in Facebook public? I'm not interested in going public and sharing what I say in Facebook. I've got over 2,500 people in Facebook who follow me, and they follow me. And if they want to read my crap, they can read it. If it's too much for them, don't read it. I put up some interesting stuff. I put up some stupid stuff. If you don't like it, flick through it. If you don't like my page, fuck off. It's simple as that. Now you can say, well, that's big-headedness or just downright rude. No, it's not. If you don't like something, why watch it? It's as simple as that. Says, that's right. It's not what you know, it's who you know. So unfair. And it is. And I'm only saying it through experience. Now, I've got the experience, been there, seen it, read the book, been treated well, and treated like shit as well. And at the end of the day, I've got the knowledge to be able to pass that information on. I wish I could say to everybody on here, trialing is the most brilliant thing out there in the dog world, in the gun dog training world, because it shows the standard of your training and the standard of your dog. That is a lie. Under certain people, you will not get the right result that you deserve because they will give it to their friends because they're weak people in themselves. They cannot do it on merit, and so they look after and scratch each other's back. I'm saying it as clear can be. Now, I don't care if the whole trial world turned against me, but guess what? It won't happen. Do you know why? Because they know it's true. They know it's true. So when somebody like Ivan starts spouting off how many times world champion he's been and what he's achieved and what he's done in that, I don't really worry about that when I'm listening to someone giving advice out on the internet. It's a plus point, but I don't go out of my way saying I never listen to that person because they've never won nothing. They may have never entered nothing. So why can they win or lose? Some people ain't stupid enough to keep banging their head on the table or get someone hit you over the head with a hammer on a regular basis, knowing that every trial you go to, you've got to hope that the top film stars don't finish on the day, else they will be winning and you will be going home with nothing. There's nothing worse than getting in the car and going home with nothing. But there's nothing worse than someone who can't train a dog to a good standard who says that all trialing is bent, because all trialing isn't bent, but a lot of it is. And do you want to play the numbers game for other people? Now, we talk about clicks and getting into these clicks. I'm training with so-and-so. He's a trialing boy. He's winning at the moment. Good for you. Crack on. But like I said on my Facebook page today, there's a number of issues that we've not even thought about. What about the guy who can train a dog to a good standard, or the girl who can train a dog to a good standard? See how I jumped in there? See how I wasn't sexist there? You can't have me on that one. You thought you were going to have me, but I jumped in there. Or the queer who can train a dog to a good standard. Or anybody, any agenda, as long as you're happy. Are you happy now, everybody? Anybody listening? Anybody offended at the moment? 35 people in the house, please tell me if you're offended. If I've not mentioned your sexuality, and I know there's 368 different freaking sexualities these days, isn't it?
You haven't mentioned they or them.
They or them, Sue said. I've got to mention they or them. So what I'm saying is, who are you going to train with? Because if you train with that person and another person or a number of people hear that, they're going to go, oh, he's not in our gang. We're not going to look after him when he comes trialing with us. So you're screwed. So I used to look at the trial sheet. I used to look at the running sheet. And the first thing I used to look at is the judges. But not when I first started. When I first started, I was naive. I thought trialing was all fair for everybody because I'd not trialed. And I started trialing and I was being successful, but I'd had a brilliant run one day and not successful, and an average run the next day, but I thought it was good enough and I'd win. So I've had better runs where I've got nothing. And I'm thinking, and then people come across, tap me on the shoulder at the end of the day, said, well done. You kept cool there. You should have won that easy, what we saw your runs. But never mind. There'll always be another day. There's nothing more demoralizing when you know that you did well. You didn't end up with nothing. You're not a whinging sod who whinges every time, who never wins, but you know of a good dog when you see a good dog, or you know when you've had a good run. And it's demoralizing. It's demoralizing. But when you're younger and you've got testosterone, you don't really want to just bite your lip and walk away. You want to say something. But if you say anything, then you're classed as a bad sportsman. You're classed as, oh, he's not happy. He didn't get an award. If you go up and ask the judge, what about me run today? I thought I had a good run. Can you tell me why you knocked me down to a B plus? Well, you're not going to win on a B plus. It's easy to give somebody a score, isn't it? Knock them down. And then the judge goes, oh, I can't remember. I forgot to write me notes. It's disgraceful. No, it's not. It means you're bent. It means you were looking after your mate on the day and it had already been decided before we even got there. And for me to travel 200 miles, take a day off work to trial a dog to make it up to a champion, to be told that you ain't going to make that dog up, but if I have it, because I'm one of the film stars, I'll make it up. I'll give you $7,000 for the dog. You tend to fuck off. You say, if I'm not going to win with it, you ain't. If I'm not going to win with it, you ain't. That's why I sold my dogs abroad. I didn't give them the satisfaction. They couldn't understand why I could just sell a dog that I'd won with and then move on to the next dog. Because I didn't chase the dream like some people chase the dream. I had the love of training dogs. My passion was training dogs. My passion was trialing at one point, but when I realized how corrupt trialing was and how you were being held back, and they don't want you judging, they don't want you getting a good name for yourself, they go out of their way to rubbish you, blacklist you, slander you, because they don't want you on the judging scene. Because you become an A-panel judge, you become a dangerous element to them, because they think that you'll treat them like they treat you. They cheat. Now, where are they out there in the dog training world talking about this the way I talk about it? Where are they out there talking about the corruption in the trial world? So we can go back one, can't we? We can go, well, what about the lies and slander in the dog training world, where people are pretending that you can train a dog with love and affection and everything can be rosy in the garden? You know, what about Scotland trying to ban hunting with dogs, and they protest a little bit with the gun dogs and say, oh, it's not fair, we're going to lose what we've been doing for years, and Scotland is one of the finest places to shoot rabbits over dogs, but they're breaking it down to if you hunt with more than 2 dogs, then it's going to be illegal, you're going to get fined. Then we want to ban the e-collar, they want to fine you X number of pounds, X number if you get caught with an e-collar or a prong collar. And in places all around the world now, they're getting on board and they're making a big thing of it. This is what people are absolutely petrified for. We're losing the tools. We're going to lose the hunting. We're going to lose the shooting, all because of peer pressure from the majority. Because we're the minority, we're going to get it, and we're going to lose it, because big business think about sales. Government, politicians think about numbers. If more numbers want to ban it, let's back the people who want to ban it. Let's look at that terrible situation in Plymouth with the shooting. They're now saying that the people in the area want the rules changed. It was the police who messed up big time. As soon as I say that, I've upset the police, but it was the police who messed up big time because they didn't do their job properly. That makes me enemy number one. We know that, because I speak my mind. As soon as I talk about corruption in trialing, I'm enemy number one. Peter Piper says Scotland becoming an open air asylum. Yep. You've now got a Muslim, and I'm not racist, but guess what? He will go with people's vote. That's what they're looking for. So if more people don't want shooting in Scotland over dogs, it will get banned, because that's the way they go. They're not thinking about, hang on, people have had that freedom and we're supposed to be a more tolerant society. And as long as they are acting within the law, then why can't they? They just come down on us and go after the people who are in the minority. That's the sad thing about where we stand. If we stood together as gun dog people, we would have a powerful organization. But we don't. We split ourselves up with fighting and tit-tat debate and jealousy in the dog training world, because it's no different than the amount of shooters in America. The amount of people who actually shoot over dogs in America, if they lobbied like they do with the gun lobby, the government would never, ever challenge because they know they wouldn't win. They'd lose votes. It's all about votes in this government that we've got, whether it's Labour or Conservative. They promise everything for the fact that they want to be in with power. So if there's a majority of people say they want it banned, they don't look at the science, they don't look at the true facts behind any of this. They just go after the minority of people, right? Because they'll overrun you easy. People's idea of a well-trained dog is being watered down and getting worse. It is getting worse, and it's getting worse because what they've done, they've lowered their standards to make it more attractable for more income again. The more people who turn up at a test to run a dog in a test, the standards have gone down for the fact that they're struggling to fill these cards because there's so many tests up and down the country. And so it doesn't, when I was running dogs in competition, you get 30 or 40 dogs enter a trial. You get 40 or 50 people enter a test. You wouldn't get a run every week. There was a lot of people out there with good dogs. And then what happened is some people would enter a trial, send an entry in for a trial. And then if one of the film stars who win on a regular basis gets a run in that trial, people would pull out of that trial and enter another trial. So they'd enter 3 or 4 trials on one day and play the percentage game that if he's running there, I'm going to be running here because I ain't going to beat him. Now, there's nothing better than having a buzz that you beat one of the film stars. It's great. You wipe 3 film stars out and you win the trial. And the film stars come over to you and go, if my dog had got that retrieve, I would have won that, the judge said. I don't give a fuck. You didn't get the retrieve. Your dog didn't make it. They don't like me because I'm straight talking. I don't care. The ones that did like me were the ones that I respected because they could train a dog to a good standard and they didn't talk such shit. But on the day, I've heard it all. I could name them. It would be embarrassing when you hear the backstabbing shit. Oh, I would have won that, but I judged that judge the other day and I give him a C of M, so he gave me a C of M. Tough titty. You're all as bad as each other. You play the game, you get bit, don't you? And that's the point, isn't it? So when somebody like Ivan says, I am, been world champion, so, great, well done, Ivan. But hang on, that doesn't mean we have to agree with you. Not on everything. And I think throwing trainers under the bus by saying anybody who uses low stim to teach the dog behavior before they go in and use high stim, it's all debatable. And I think there's nothing wrong with debate, but it's how you handle that debate. It's how you push that debate across. Because if professionals can't be seen to be agreeing with each other, then how the hell does the average person out there stand a chance of any understanding? My son qualified for the National Best Scurry final, and some of the dogs made so much noise it was unbelievable. How can that be a good thing for gun dog training standards? It's true, Gary, but the problem is BASC haven't got a clue. They have not got a clue. I've seen trainers got in for BASS and they have not got a clue training people. I think BASS bit off more than they can chew. They should have stuck to just gun stuff and not dog training. They tried to get involved in gun dog training, didn't they? I had a big fallout on the internet years ago, didn't I, with BASC, when they allowed everybody to attack me and accuse me of certain things when I'd not been found guilty of anything. They then wouldn't make an apology, and the bigwigs, the port drinking bastards, I called them, didn't I? They tried to close shop. And do you know why? What happened when we talk about anything now to do with e-collars or anything like that? They keep out of it, don't they? Do you know why they keep out of it? Because they got bit. They got bit because the average man stood up with me and said, what did he do? He disciplined a dog, for Christ's sake, and they got such a backlash in, they had to close shop and keep me out of the conversation. They didn't apologize publicly because they knew if they apologized publicly, big business, then that means they are liable. And that was the whole point. I could have gone down the road of suing them, but guess what? Absolute waste of time. And yet it was BASC who were supposed to be ambassadors for our shooting, and the bigwigs in BASC were threatening to kill each other at Head Q party. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And guess what? Ex-police officer. Unbelievable. Why would you make threats to kill if you own a gun and you are high up with BASC? Because he's a dick. Detective, Sue said. Detective. No, he was
too much drink.
He was very high up. He was out in Bosnia and all that. He was very senior. And like I say, drink took over. Big-headedness took over. Port drinking lardy-dars. I got no time for him. I got
spot on, actually, didn't you?
Yeah, port drinking bastards. And the thing is, they said, if you ever talk about us again, we will sue you, Mr. Upton. Well, I've just talked about them. Here comes the paperwork. Here comes the paperwork. But the thing is, I've still got the evidence. I kept the evidence on purpose, and I'd love them to take me to court. If I take them to court, that costs me money. If they took me to court, I'd have a field day. I'd be like Rumpole in the Bailey. Anyway, any questions tonight about dog training? I tried to talk about dog training.
No, just Gary said on one of your things, it's better to be told the truth so that you can learn from it than to be told a load of shite to make you feel better. Chris has pulled me up about a few things and I've learned from it.
Now, that's the important thing. A good friend is not going to shit on you. A good friend is going to pull you up and say, hang on, just think about the way you handled that. Just think about if you did that a little bit different. That's up to you, your choice, but I'm just giving you that input because I want to see you getting on and doing better. And it's really important because it would be easy to say, I'm not putting anybody through who hasn't entered competition and proved themselves in competition. I think that's a load of shite. That's why I've talked about it tonight. I think that what Larry Crone has done with the gun dog world, not the gun dog world, but he's helped the gun dog world, but what he's done with the pet world about using the e-collar on low stim and teaching the dog what it means and how to switch off the pressure. I still, even though I've listened to all the debates, it's like Bart Ballon. I agree with what he says, a lot of the stuff he says. And yet Ivan is standing up there in his ivory tower saying anybody who does it that way shouldn't be training. Anybody who teaches that shouldn't be teaching it. You're dangerous. You are doing the e-collar debate an absolute load of harm. I disagree. I'm allowed to disagree with anybody. It doesn't matter what they've achieved. I've promoted Ivan in a number of ways, and I think that bringing the debate to the table is great, but it's how you bring the debate to the table. He's had people on recently that he's interviewed, and I thought, you've let them off lightly, Ivan. You've let them off lightly. Whether they're positive for what he thinks or negative against what he thinks, he's let them off lightly. He's treated them with kid gloves. He's not asked the questions that perhaps I would have asked. But guess what? He then will attack other trainers out there who are very, very successful, very, very popular on the grounds that his way or the highway. I disagree. Not everybody wants the precise protection dog that Ivan wants. But that doesn't mean that Ivan is only a specialist in that area, because on the feed he was on, he was explaining, and I totally understand that he trains pet dogs, he trains pet people with pet dogs, but that's their choice. But if I was going to train only for trialing, I would change my format slightly. Not a lot, but slightly, because it would not be so important in certain areas if you just wanted a nice, steady little shooting dog that you could have fun with. But what you've got with me, you've got both sides of the coin. You've got someone who knows how to produce drive and desire and yet control. And let's ask that question to the guys on it. There's 30 people in here. Would you prefer a dog with drive and control, or would you just prefer a dog that was flat and easy to handle. So just go yes if you prefer a dog with drive and desire and control. Just put yes. If no, you want a dog that's a lot more easy to handle, biddable, put no. Let's see what we get here.
I knew Gary was answering before he said it.
Now the thing is, how do you know what you want if you've never had it? But once you've had it, trust me, you want it again. You want that drive and that desire, and that's what I want to see. I want to see those. I really want to see them fingers. Is that what you say? It's great when you say yes, because that's what I aim for. I aim to give you the best dog you can have and not bore the shit out of it, suppress it to hell, and you've got a dog that's just bored silly. And I see them, and I say to people in the nicest way, listen, back off a little bit, give the dog a little bit more leeway. The dog will come out of itself. It'll be a better dog for it, and you'll have a better dog. When I first started, I'd seen a couple of dogs that were so driven, I thought, that's what I'm looking for. I overtrained my first few dogs that I ran in competition. Yes, 2 of them won. But I overtrained them. They were what you call handler reliant. They needed my support all the time. They looked back at me for guidance a little bit too much. They were still good because they won, but the next three or four that I won with, and they won test and trial, they were superstars because I'd mastered it. I'd mastered how to just put enough control into the dog, and the dogs were on edge. They were driven, but they made your heart beat when you ran them. They made you tuck your balls up and get on with it. You ain't got time to think and have a fag or stand there talking to someone when you're running a dog with drive and desire. And the guns just look at the dog and shit themselves. And there's nothing finer than watching a judge stuttering, going, where did you get this dog from? What line is this from? And you go, I bred it. Nothing finer. And if you've not been there, you wouldn't know. But because I've been there and I know what a driven dog is like, I'm not saying that everybody in our group could cope with a real driven iDrive dog. But what my job is to get the best out of the dog for you and for the person. And Jeff's dog is a fine example. Jeff Haraway's dog is a fine example. He has got such a pair of bollocks, not Jeff, the dog. I'm not being rude to you, Jeff. The dog has got such a pair of bollocks. He's just a naughty little bastard. So for Jeff to be able to master him, he wouldn't have mastered him with 4 or 5 trainers down the road. He wouldn't have. I'm not being a big head. I'm saying he would have gone to 4 or 5 trainers down the road and they would say, get rid of it. Get rid of it. You'll never hold it. You'll never have fun with it. But Jeff is getting there with that dog. And he's beginning to understand the importance of what we've had to go through, the stages we've gone through. And people don't see all that. They're so quick to make judgment, but they don't see the patience and the commitment that Jeff has put in. And I've got all Jeff's videos. And if I stitched them together, the early ones, the mid section, the messy section, and now where he's getting better and better, people would go, bloody hell, what a difference with that dog. Now, Jeff's not coming every week. That's Jeff's choice. Jeff's dog's cut itself. It's all down to each individual. Some people come every week. Some people come once a 6 months, don't they, Sue? Some people only come when they get a problem. Some people turn up with real problem dog. We sort the dog out. You don't see him again. Some people are like a bad fart. You can't get rid of them. Oh, is that a bad smell? I don't know. I don't know where that comes from. But guess what? I enjoy all sorts of people. I enjoy stroppy customers. If you're too stroppy, you'll see a different Chris Upton. But I like the fact that not everybody's the same. If everybody was the same, it would be boring. If every dog you trained was the same, it would be boring. I like the fact that everybody who turns up is an individual, and the real skill set of a dog trainer is to get into the mindset of the owner as much as getting into the mindset of the dog, because you can work the dog, with my experience, dead easy, but if you can't work the person, you don't stand a chance. Is a fine line between understanding how to train dogs, and there's plenty of people out there who can train dogs to a good standard, but they couldn't train people to train dogs because they've kept their secrets to themselves. They've trained quietly by themselves. They've not put problems into dogs, and that's what I was talking about earlier. If you are one of the film stars, or you're up and coming film star, and you're doing really, really well in tests and trials, and everyone's going, oh, this guy can train a dog, this guy keeps putting stuff up. If you've not put problems into those dogs, how will you know how to get the problems out of dogs, or how to educate people, if you've not seen thousands of dogs with problems? Because I've seen thousands of people with, Sue said, certainly have. Because I've seen thousands of people with problems, I've seen people with problems as much as the dogs have got problems. But that's another story. You know, technically, I'm a psychiatrist as well. Come and lie on my couch. Tell me your problems. Get it off your chest.
You need to lie down in your dark room half the time.
See what she says? I need to lie in my dark room. What's happening? Every time someone comes and they give me not a headache, but a challenge, it takes another bit of energy out of me. I'm like that Superman, taking all that krypton energy out of me. Eventually, I'll just sit there in a freaking puddle, in a yellow puddle like kryptonite. Just he got nothing left. But I actually enjoy the challenge. I get a buzz from a problem dog. Dogs that turn up that are great, I can't do nothing other than go shake your hand and go, freaking out. Have you trained this dog? Watching your videos. And who else helped you? No one. You've not been anywhere else? Nope. All I can do is shake the freaking hand. I couldn't have trained the dog any better myself. So the method must work, mustn't it? The method must work. So visually, watching the videos, listening to the garbage that I put up, and I put a lot of it up, and I sometimes think, do I give too much? Do I overload? Should I step back, not put so many videos up? I ask questions. I ask the group, what do they feel? Some people give answers. Some people say nothing. So I'm running blind sometimes. I'm thinking, what does the group want? Do they want more advanced training, or do they want to get the basics right? And there's no point in moving into advanced training until you've got your basics right. But what we're not wanting to do is suppress the drive and desire in the dog by becoming over an obedience trainer. There's nothing more boring for a dog than obedience training. Discipline is a small part of what we do. Anybody in the group will know that 90% of what we do is gameplay. That is what Ivan is talking about. That is what Larry is talking about. That is what Bella is talking about. Where are the Gundog people talking about all this? Like somebody said in our group, I can go anywhere for people to throw freaking dummies. I want the information. I want the knowledge. I want to know how to get the dog hunting better. I want to win competition. But if you watch it on the internet with the Gundog people, or you go to these training seminars, it's all about throwing dummies. It's not about the psychology of how to not destroy drive. Because if you turn up with a dog that's only hunting 50%, when it could be hunting 100%, you're 50 points down already, aren't you? Because the majority of spaniel tests should be higher score for the hunting than the retrieving. But I've been on some of these tests where they got more points for retrieving. You might as well have a Labrador. You might as well have a Labrador. And the problem is, any trainer can stand everybody in a line and throw dummies. Any trainer can do that. Number 7, send your dog. Michael, send your dog. Stop your dog. Anybody can bore the shit out of a dog. The real skill is getting the best out of the dog and getting the best out of the handler. And you need the environment to be able to train the dog in. That's why this summer I have to head for Scotland, because that's the only place we're going to get on the rabbits. Right? Now, Yorkshire is stitched up. Yorkshire is stitched up big time. I don't know anywhere in Yorkshire where I can go. I used to, but it's all stitched up. But Scotland, everybody's dog's got to be kept on the lead, because if there's two dogs and one slips the lead, we're all going to jail with Nicola Sturgeon.
Not anymore.
Oh.
Got the new one now.
No. She's been banned, hasn't she? She thought she was the Queen of Scotland, didn't she? She's in the Tower. They got a Muslim in charge of Scotland now, innit? It'd be great, wouldn't it? Refugees. I got a freaking brilliant place for them to go. I think refugees should all go to Scotland. Plenty of places in Scotland, isn't there? Have you sorted dates out for Scotland? Yeah, but don't mention it on here. Don't mention it on here. Don't mention any dates on here. The Scottish police will be informed. I know
Dates will be taken.
there's certain people watching this. Right. Anyway, you've had 46 minutes. Any questions? I like the fact that not one person said no. I want to suppress my dog's drive. I think that's wonderful. Paul Crocker. Chris, please don't shoot me down. Why would I shoot you down? When did you last enter a test or trial? 10 years ago. Have I been to test and trial? Yes. Have I watched them? Yes. But not entered them. But carry on. You've not shot me down. Ask me another question. Why would you worry that I shot you down? Do you think test and trials are really good at the moment, Paul? Tell me, Paul. I'm interested. Not shoot you down at all.
Would it be Lexi the last one, or what?
Lexi, no.
Where's the last one?
But the thing is, why is there no entries? Why is there no entries at these tests and trials at the moment? Are people getting sick and tired of the politics?
Are people not in it as much as they used to be?
Or is it the expense of it all? Is it just the expense of it? Is it the traveling? You think about it, how dear it is now. You think about traveling and how dear it becomes. I'm not saying there isn't good trial people out there, but I see people who come here who want to improve, and they tell me that they've won this and they've won that, and the standard of their dog is terrible. Absolute terrible. Guess what? They don't want to be on camera. Why don't they be on camera? Because you see the truth. And I've got to honor my customers, don't I? So if I got customers who come to me who want to trial, they can't be seen to be on my videos because they won't get on in the trial world. Steve Page, did Wiz ever run a test or trial? Yeah. I think Wiz ran two trials. He was on one of the trials. He was young on one of the trials, and he was a bit sticky. And he was sticky because when I bought him, he was a nervous wreck, and he didn't like people. And with all the people around, he got a bit sticky. And I got him over the stickiness of running him because he was unsure of himself, and I got him to hunt really nice. And then the first trial, he was a bit sticky, and then second trial, I failed on a bird. And it was a funny situation. Two of us went out on it. They shot a bird, and it landed on the top of a 10-foot hedge, and the hedge must have been 4 foot wide and cut right at the top, so it was flat. And the bird, it wasn't my bird, it was the other guy's bird, and he got sent for the bird got up, they shot it, they sent his dog for it, and his dog was running around, and I kept looking at him going on, it was on top of the edge, like, and the other judge was watching me, and I couldn't really say anything, but I was just like, it's on top of the edge, because he sent the dog around the back of the gate post, around the back of the edge, around the front, and it wasn't there. The judge said, called us across. We went across, and they talked with each other, and I said, don't worry, because the bird's on top of the edge, you're not going to be going out on that one. They're going to have to go up and lift that off. No dog can climb up the frigging edge. And so he then said, right, okay, the judge reckons it's on that edge. I says, it's not, it's on the top of the edge. He said, just send your dog and try it with you. So I sent the dog, ran around the edge, went up the edge, through the edge, couldn't get on top of the edge, right? Come back. The judge went around the back of the hedge. I seen him climb up the freaking edge, and all I saw was a hand go like that, pick the bird up, bring it back down. That's all you saw. And he came back round and said, it was on the other side of the hedge. I thought, you lying bastard. And that judge was a nasty, nasty judge called Walter Harrison, an A-panel judge from Walter Harrison from not Somerset, Dorset way. Walter Harrison. He could sue me as well if he likes. But guess what? Got witnesses. And guess what? There was one reason that he did that. Because a month earlier, I was judging him. And his dog was a good hunting dog. Too tight for my liking, but still the most driven dog there that I'd had under me at that point. And a bird was shot, and it was shot reasonably close. And I said, send your dog. And he said, what, from here? I thought, well, I'm not moving you closer. It's freaking 30 feet out. So he goes, get out, get out. And the dog wouldn't get out there 30 feet. Wouldn't get out 30 feet. A-panel judge. And I'm thinking, it's only 30 foot. He starts to creep forward. I said, hang on, Walter. Stand still. Send your dog. Still tries to creep forward. Tries to dominate you because he's an A-panel older judge. I said, so I banged me stick into the ground. I said, Walter, if you go past that stick, I'll put you out. Your dog's supposed to pick the bird, not you. So he had to stand where the stick was. So anyway, he didn't get it. It took ages. So I said, hang on, pull your dog up. And because we didn't have a lot of game, it was one of them trials there wasn't a lot of game. I said, just wait there a second. I'm going to go and ask the other judge whether he wants that bird. Now, if the other judge had come across with the handler and the handler had picked it, Walter would have gone out. So I goes across to the other judge. I said, we got a bird here. Do you want it? And that judge said to me, no, I'm just finishing with this guy. You'll have to have it. You'll have to have it, Chris. So I said, come back. And there's Walter with the bird in his hand. I said, I told you to stay there and not go past the stick. He said, I didn't, but the dog came back. On the way back, the dog picked the bird. I thought, you lying bastard. Anyway, I had to give him the benefit of the doubt because I didn't see it. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I marked him down for not handling, but I'd still give him a reasonable mark for the fact his dog had hunted well. If the other judge had come across with the other guy and picked a simple bird, he would have gone. He would have been put out. So because of that, he had a hissy fit that he didn't that he didn't get the score he wanted. That is bullying and intimidating. That is part and parcel of the trial world for you, everybody. I'm not going to be bullied and intimidated by an old man who thinks he's superior to everybody else. I'm going to treat him exactly the same as I treat everybody else. And that's the problem with the trial world. You have to put up with.
Yeah, you don't test the dog. It's the owner, isn't it?
Yeah. What happens is he's renowned for being that bully in attitude. And at the end of the trial, he came over to me and said, you learned something that day, didn't you? I said, what do you mean I learned something? I said, the only thing I learned is you're bent, and walked away from him because he was told to stand there with his dog. His dog was nowhere near the bird. And what he's done, he's gone over and picked the bird and said, my dog's picked it. Now, I can't, because I wasn't there, give 100% precise situation because I told him to stay there while I go and get the other judge. That was my job to do because that bird was pickable. If he'd been picked, he would have gone out. I thought, you're going to put yourself out. I didn't look to put him out. He put himself in that situation because he couldn't handle his dog back less than 30 feet. That is poor, but not poor if you're an A-panel judge and your mates look after you and you look after them. And I'm not getting into that with him. I'm saying that you'll be surprised how many people win a trial not on merit. I'm not talking about him in that situation, because I only talk about situations that I've actually seen. But I'm telling you, there's plenty of people out there who are A panel, B panel, that I wouldn't entertain as dog trainers. I wouldn't entertain them. They might have been good in their early days, but at the age he was nothing but a nasty, big-headed, bolshy bloke. And people don't like it when you talk about them. People don't like the truth. But I can talk the truth because I'm out of it. They can't hit me. They can't affect me. I say it the way it is. I bet most of our dogs in the group would have picked a 30-foot bird. Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole point. At the end of the day, if you keep a dog too tight in your hunting and you don't allow that dog to get out on, like, picking up, when you go out picking up with it, if there's nothing finer than working a dog in the beating line, there's nothing finer than working a dog picking up and having the control and teaching the dog to get out 150, 160 yards for long distance retrieves and trusting the dog. But the dog, you've taught the dog to mark. If you train a dog to hunt round your feet and stay round your feet, that's where the dog will be. If the dog has more fun away from you, and dogs that pull are finding game and getting away with it, then those dogs are going to open up and pull, and vice versa. There's plenty of people out there who can get the retrieves, but they can't keep a dog within the hunting distance. There's plenty of people out there who can do both. But just because you're a panel judge and you've been a panel judge for 20, 30 years does not mean that you're good at what you do. Because when you became a panel judge all them years ago, the standard may have not been so good. Now, I believe that the standard of trialing with the top people is really high, the top people. But there ain't many of them. There ain't that many of them. But you've now got this whinging group of people who are getting trialing changed because they complain to the judge. You know, why wasn't I in the awards? Why was my dog not good enough? I'm going to go and train with him. He then gives them the nod. It's all politics. It's all politics. But I'm not saying everything is politics. There is some good trainers out there. There is some honest people, but they're not the majority. Unfortunately, that's the sad thing about it.
That must be frustrating for them.
It must be frustrating. And so for someone coming up through the ranks who's trained a dog to a reasonable little standard and they deserve a third or a second or a certificate of merit, they're not getting it because of look after my mates. It's wrong, isn't it? It's wrong. And if people don't believe me, don't believe me. It's as simple as that. I don't need to talk bullshit. I'm giving it the way it is. I've seen an average dog win a trial, and 10 people in the trial, there may be 50 people there the other day, 10 people talking about it non-stop. Did you see that? It dropped that bird on the way back. It ran back into the judge, and the owner had to say, what do I do? And the judge said, send your dog again. And it was in the awards. It shouldn't have been in the awards. It wasn't good enough. But if you lower the standard, and you lower the standard by cheating, then the standard's not as good. And I'm not being funny, but when you watch and you've got the experience, that's the different thing. That's why I asked Paul that question. It wasn't to try and have an argument with him. It's to say, he says, don't shoot me down when you last enter a test or a trial. It's not about entering, it's being there, watching it. And if you've watched it and you can see the standard is nowhere near as it used to be, judges are being picked on merit. That's the way it should have always been. You don't get picked because of who you hang around with. But it's always been, when I was doing it, certain people judged who hadn't won with, they may have won with one dog in 30 years and they're judging on a regular basis. That doesn't make them a good dog man. because you won one trial 30 years ago. You've got to be winning on a regular basis, in my eyes, to be up there as classed as respectable, knowledgeable, and I've got time for them people. And that's why you don't get lots and lots of trial people saying Chris Upton talks a load of shit. You get a lot of trial people keep their opinions to themselves. Why? Because as soon as you start giving your opinion, you start upsetting people. And as soon as you start upsetting people, it's going to cost you in the trial world. Simple as that. The test world, I don't think it's as corrupt. Why? Because there's a lot of retrieves. It's not easy to be so corrupt. You can knock somebody down with points, don't get me wrong. But I think the element is where the money is in the field trial winners, field trial champions. And as soon as there's money involved like that, and it's not a lot of prize money, it's nothing to do with the prize money, it's to do with the prestige of the stud fees and how you'll affect other people who in your area who's got dogs that they want to stud out. So there's a lot of politics involved in it. And I don't go about it all the time, but when I do, I think it's important because, like I'm saying, if everything in competition was honest and open and fair, I'd still be doing it. I'd still be doing it. Why? Because it's a shop window. It's a shop window. But I'm happy I'm out of it. And I'm happy I owe nobody nothing. No, I've never been in anybody's pocket to get an award or a result. And that's the important thing for me. Integrity, that you won on merit, that you beat everybody there on the day and you come away with that trophy because you deserved it, your dog deserved it. That means far more to me than having mates who look after you. You scratch their back, they'll scratch yours. Anyway, on that note, I don't know why we went in that direction. Perhaps it was a few questions, or I don't know why I went too much in that direction. I hadn't spoken about trialing for a long, long time. But I hope you enjoyed the evening. 31 people in the house. Some of you have left. You only got 4 thumbs up. I'm so disappointed. I mean, if you've got to subscribe, you've got to subscribe. Else I'm getting thinner. Look, I'm getting thinner because you're not subscribing. If I dyed my hair, would you put a thumbs up if next week I came in ginger? If I came in ginger. So who had a cry about? Was it Paul O'Grady? Paul O'Grady. He's Sue's age. For Christ's sake, doesn't it bring things to that he was only Sue's age?
Thanks for mentioning my age.
Do you know how old Sue is, everyone? Just have to check out Paul O'Grady.
My birth certificate is wrong.
She says her birth certificate's wrong. So good night all, and thanks for tuning in, and perhaps 9 thumbs up, honestly.
Wait till afterwards.
No one loves me, Sue. This is the problem. No one loves me.
Oh, cool.
I used to enjoy it. I used to get more thumbs down than thumbs up.
Yes, no flag.
Lynn Vine, stop it. 67. Stop it, Lynn Vine. You knew. Julian Lee's 48. Yeah, so anyway, thanks for tuning in, everyone. 3 minutes overtime tonight. Catch you all later from Chris and Sue.